Hey folks, MasakoX here. This story is one of the earliest to have aired on this channel, back in 2017. Yes, I know it's taken a long time in which to get through this sort of story, but for a long time I really couldn't for the life of me come up with a compelling enough continuation for it after part 4 or so. But recently, thanks to your help via the Roundtable streams, I had managed to find a workaround. As a result, we were able to really add some surreal situations to the story, whilst keeping somewhat in lines with the original lore concerning Vegeta becoming the first Super Saiyan within Dragon Ball Z. Sure, this stopped Goku from taking that title, and actually led to Goku going Majin after years of degradation from the prince. Seriously, anybody would have lost their cool going through all of that, even the most chill of chill like Goku. And then subsequently being told to basically get over himself. Despite all that, the heroes would end up winning out against their enemies. It's just they had to give Vegeta a couple of further dressing downs along the way. In the last part, we had Goku and Vegeta fight each other once more, but with various forms of Majin Buu acting as their vassals. Good Buu and Goku versus Evil Buu and Vegeta. These titans went against one another, but in the end, thanks to their better union and more cohesive ethics and efforts, Buuku won over Buugeta, as it tore itself apart thanks to its bizarre and less conducive means to work together, because Vegeta tried to trick Evil Buu. After all this became clear to the prince within Buugeta's body, he ultimately had to admit that this was the right place in which to destroy the evil within Good Buu's heart, and thusly nullify all of the wrath that Babidi and like had in mind for this universe. Even though he's being stubborn, Vegeta relented eventually, and it led to Evil Buu being destroyed. But he couldn't quite let go the fact that if it hadn't been for him and his efforts and him being there, his strength, they would have lost. And if you remember the last chapter as well, Gohan and Goku got pretty angry with all of this posturing. Ultimately, Good Buu was allowed to live amongst the likes of Goku and family, but it did leave Gohan lacking in the ultimate power department because he didn't train with Shin and Elder Kai. Or would someone else go after that plum? It hurt. It hurt a lot to see his entire world and potential be stripped away from him like that. Being pummeled by Gohan, Goku, and that pink blob of do-goodery. He had vowed to get stronger than Goku and that stupid Super Saiyan 3 power. He had investigated that strength for himself and found it to be utterly useless. Granted, he could master Super Saiyan 2 perhaps, but that would end up with diminishing returns in the long run, and he knew it. He had to find a whole other level of power that not even Goku could attain with ease. Something that would differ himself from the other Saiyan and prove to him and everyone, and for once and for all, he was the best. That Supreme Kai guy. He must have some kind of hidden training on whatever world he lived on. He had all of these different techniques and powers. Surely he could use some of that. He called out to the heavens, shouting to Shin to come here and wish to atone for its sins and stubborn nature. Basically, he's just going, "Oh, Supreme Kai, I'm so sorry." And sure enough, because Shin's that gullible, he found Vegeta shouting on his crystal ball. He was in a good mood too with the people of Earth, and even if the person who wished to speak with him was one of the more belligerent folk, he still obliged. Within a few minutes, Shin had teleported in with Kibito and heard Vegeta out. He chose to come up with some cockamamie story about him wanting to make amends with what he had done, putting people in jeopardy, coming up with some kind of power to help save the people of Earth. He had also told Shin that he had indeed helped with undermining Evil Buu, and that if they were to ensure that no other threat would ever dare harm Earth again, they would definitely need to ensure that their best fighters were all on their best paths to greatness, and this is what Vegeta had in mind for himself. Kibito wasn't sure about this, but Shin, who was the very naive and yet forgiving kind and also the boss, chose to give the prince the benefit of the doubt and grant him training. Oh dear. He had something in mind for him that would probably humble him in the extreme, he thought. That'll show him. Oh, it'll only show you up, mate. When they used instantaneous movement to get off of Earth, Goku felt Vegeta's ki disappear from the planet all of a sudden. Well, that was weird. Had he gone off world to train somewhere? Oh well, he thought. At least he was out of their hair for the time being. It was good to be rid of him for a while, because Vegeta's place within the group, it wasn't good. So they chose not to bother investigating. They were all just grateful for the brief interlude with the prince no longer nearby to chastise them. When Shin, Kibito and Vegeta arrived on the Sacred World of the Kais, the latter underwent the Z-Sword training, which sure enough led to the Elder Kai being freed from his prison, to the surprise of everybody. Appreciative of being let out, he offered to Vegeta his own kind of training that could unlock his current potential, as a thank you for being released. Granted, he found the prince to be a rather cantankerous fellow, but the sheer relief of being out of that blasted sword after 1,000 years? That was too much to pass up. Besides, he might end up being locked away again had he not agreed to do this. Who knows where that cat was right now who put him in there? He better make the most of his freedom, he thought. The 25-hour training session began, with Vegeta in the centre of the Elder Kai's dancing. He found this to be extremely irritating, and the only thing that kept him going and sitting right there was the thought of what was on the other side. And hey, even if this turned out to be a complete waste of time and it yielded nothing, it was only a day. He had all the time in the world to find ways to beat down Kakarot. And at the end of it, the Elder Kai asked Vegeta to stand up and go Super Saiyan. But he couldn't. Or at least, he didn't exhibit the typical visual. He had powered up, sure, but he looked the same, still with his jet black hair.
What's going on? What have you done to me, old man? Explain!
Elder Kai, who had seen his fair share of angry warriors over the years, waved this concern aside.
Relax, kiddo. I did what you asked, unlocked your potential. You are now in your ultimate form, your ultimate potential.
Vegeta looked at his hands and decided to make use of this supposed power. He fired an energy blast around the world and proceeded to try and catch it on the other side. Kibito, the Elder Kai, and Shin found this extremely weird and also very scary, because this, if it went wrong, could cause a lot of damage. Vegeta turned around and caught the beam. It was much stronger than he had expected. Sure, he could override it and cancel it out, but it took considerably more effort and energy in which to do so. The old man was right. He had gotten stronger by simply just sitting there for a day. Just imagine what he could do if he undertook more training here. He chose to keep up the grateful act for the old man's kindness. The elder of the Kais was completely unaware of being played, and Shin was just happy to now have a wiser head to talk to in times of need or enquiry. And so, in the 4 years before Super, Vegeta spent his time on the sacred world of the Kais, training every single day with himself, the Elder Kai, and Shin to perfect his newfound potential and maybe enhance it even more than had ever been seen. The Elder Kai had never seen someone so focused and intelligent and wanting to better himself. Right now, the prince didn't miss Super Saiyan at all. As he kept honing his skills, he was using less and less stamina to maintain this power. He was understanding it more and more, and in turn, it took much less effort to use. Kakarot was left in the dust, he thought. So now, during this peacetime, and Goku just going about his business and everyone just relieved that Vegeta wasn't there, Beerus woke up. He indeed finds Goku training on King Kai's planet, the original destined Super Saiyan god in his mind, and finds him to be woefully underpowered. Having been beaten considerably, Goku then got worried about what this thing could do if it got to Earth and focus on it. Maybe destroy it? Vegeta was nowhere to be seen, and hadn't showed up on Earth since he randomly disappeared that one night 4 years ago. It hadn't occurred to him to ask as to where he had gone, ask the Supreme Kai or anyone like that. The entire Dragon team had just been so happy to be rid of him, they hadn't even bothered to check. Now they needed him. Desperately. Back on said world, Vegeta was doing his regular training routine as per usual when Shin called him over, looking all flustered. "Vegeta! Terrible news! Lord Beerus has woken up, and he's looking for something." That name. He had been hoping he'd never hear that name again. But there it was. Beerus had returned, and he had come from him, he thought. Oh, not exactly, Jeeves, but whatever floats your boat. "He's met Goku already, and completely beaten him to within an inch of his life," said Shin with extreme fear. "He might go after his friends on Earth in a fit of frustration. We got to do something!" Vegeta then laughed, to which Shin was really bemused by. "Don't you understand the situation, Vegeta? Your world could be at risk!" But after his laughter was over, he stepped up, choosing to be
The hero. I knew this day would come. Kakarot has gotten soft, obviously. He clearly hasn't trained in my absence. I guess I have to go and clean up their mess.
Inside, the prince was scared to face Beerus, but he felt that this power that he had could be enough to do something against the cat. At least more than what Kakarot had done. Had he used that ridiculous Super Saiyan 3 power again? No wonder he lost. The battle had been lost before it even begun, no doubt. With Shin and Kibito with him, Vegeta teleported to Earth. And there was the cat, getting into a spot of bother with Buu over some pudding. Typical. He knew Beerus to be one with food. Suddenly, we stepped up to the prince and greeted him as if he were a long-lost friend. Well, hello. You must be Vegeta. I recognize that widow's peak anywhere. The prince was stunned. That was the cat's attendant.
Yes, I have come to stop him from destroying my planet.
Whis chuckled. My, such bravery. Considering the last time we saw you, that's quite the statement. Well, don't let me stop you. I'm keen to see how far you've come since you were a child. Perhaps you can scratch Lord Beerus's itch about the Super Saiyan God.
Super Saiyan God?
Maybe that's what he was now. He had trained with the Supreme Kai and he was like a god. Who knows? Well, he had to go in and try. Beerus turned to face the prince, whom stepped up into his field of vision, him recognizing the twerp immediately.
Ah, Prince Vegeta. I recognize the widow's peak anyway. I'm here to stop you from inflicting any more harm to this world.
The entire Dragon team were left stunned. What? Was Vegeta on their side now? For real this time? Wow, I guess his galactic pilgrimage had done him the world of good then. Maybe he wasn't being such a blowhard anymore. Beerus was glad to fight Vegeta. He had personal beef with this one, and so initially, he decided to go easy with the prince. Give him some semblance of satisfaction. Don't break his spirit just yet. But he would then make him regret his words. That's how best to deal with Saiyans, he thought. However, it wasn't that simple, he quickly realised. Thanks to Vegeta's ultimate power, plus his further training and mastery of it, unlike Gohan, who'd promptly stopped training after getting it, Beerus was overpowered for quite a while. He hadn't expected Vegeta to be that good. He wasn't even using that Super Saiyan thing that Goku had used. Vegeta was euphoric. He was winning against Beerus. Well, not for long though. With that, Beerus powered up to half his full power and completely trounced the prince. Not even all those years of training were enough to win out against one of the things he had feared since he was a little kid. But he was going against a destroyer god after all, to be fair. But before Beerus could land the final blow, Goku arrived to challenge the cat again, for round 2. But Beerus wasn't satisfied with that. We then get the Super Saiyan God ritual being explained by Shenron, and the revelation of Videl's pregnancy comes up, and that means we still get the suitable number of Saiyans needed for it to play out. But it's not Goku that gets the power this time. After seeing what the prince could do, Beerus decrees that Vegeta will be the one to be bestowed with this power. The Dragon team are not happy about this and they push back, but the cat reminds them all that he could break their world in 2. The only thing that could soothe his furrowed brow right now was Vegeta getting this power, because he had a soft spot for the prince. The little scared child had grown into a fierce warrior. Not bad. So yes, Vegeta becomes a Super Saiyan God. Thanks to his training with Shin, his ultimate being unlocked, and now Super Saiyan God on top of that, he gave Beerus a much more fierce fight than Goku had done in the original. Beerus, instead of having to rely on 70% of his power, had to use 80%. A really serious duel. He still won against Vegeta, but this time he was in a much better mood before he fell asleep, his nap afterward being much more deep. We thanked Vegeta for the workout and that he hadn't seen Beerus this spirited in millennia. They would be in touch as soon as Beerus had woken up, and that wouldn't be for a while, he thought. When Whis had taken Beerus away, the Dragon team were left feeling dejected. Vegeta hadn't improved. He was just as bad, and now he was a god amongst Super Saiyans. They would never be able to come back from this. They would never hear the last of this. Goku felt the worst of them all. There was no way he could train up enough to catch up with the prince now. Vegeta, though, pitied him.
It's all right, Kakarot. I'm sure that you'll find something to catch up with me just a bit.
Goku grimaced and struck Vegeta, and big mistake. Vegeta still had ultimate to fall back on, and pounded the Saiyan into the dirt.
Know your place before your god.
Great, a genuine god complex now. Indeed, Beerus had called for Vegeta after a while. Whis had been instructed to train the prince in refining the Super Saiyan god power even further, so that Vegeta may be able to use it more often, and perhaps give Beerus an even better challenge, even more so than he had done just now. One day, Whis had come by to collect some snacks from Capture Corp whilst training Vegeta on Beerus' planet, when Goku accosted the angel, requesting to be trained in the same fashion to the prince. Whis refused it, and Goku asked why. "You see, Goku, Vegeta thinks that you are not up to the challenge."
What? That's ridiculous! I'm always up for the challenge!
"I appreciate the spirit, my friend, but Vegeta has informed me of your lack of integrity, your willingness to succumb to malevolent energy in the form of the wizard Babidi, allying with Jin-like demons like Majin Buu, and reminding Lord Beerus of your woeful performance against him when the first time you met him. I'm sorry, Goku, but we believe that you are not suitable material for this training." Goku couldn't believe what he was hearing. Vegeta had played them all. He had manipulated Beerus and Whis something fierce, making them think that Goku was useless. But there's nothing he could have done. Whis bade Goku adieu and left him to stew. So yeah, where does this leave our story, Masako? Well, it leaves Vegeta training with Whis and Beerus, him abandoning Earth now, and its responsibilities, and his family. He didn't need them anymore. He had managed to get his way, and firmly put Goku in his place, the thing he wanted to do. Thusly, everything goes downhill for our heroes. Frieza's golden form beats Goku, he then destroys Earth, getting his revenge, but Whis was a little sad when he found out that Earth was no longer there. He really liked their snacks. Oh well, this kind of thing happened in their line of work. In turn, this means when Trunks comes back in time to call upon the Dragon Team to fight against Goku Black, all he is met with is empty space. The entire planet is gone, and had been for a while. King Kai had been told by Beerus not to interfere and bring that world back, since he was planning on destroying that planet himself anyway. And the only reason he hadn't done so before now, giving it a stay of execution, was because of Vegeta's earlier performance. But clearly, since Frieza had just come along and destroyed it, it wasn't worthy of his mercy anymore. Tough luck, the cat thought. And yes, you guessed it. Vegeta's power and training leads to him eventually becoming the Universe 7 candidate for the next Destroyer God when Beerus would retire, whenever that may be. Does the Tournament of Power also happen? Well, no. Since Zeno never met Goku and had been reminded of his boredom or given the idea of a tournament, or ever met his future self, Zeno just continued to plod along being himself, playing with his guards in the GP. All of this coming from Vegeta getting the Super Saiyan cherry first. His ego being utterly massaged, and it in turn leading to Earth's doom, in the midst of the prince's personal glory and desire to remind all that walked around him that he was the prince of all Saiyans. And that's where we end things. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see another timeline where Vegeta tried to grasp power, check out this story here, where Vegeta never turned good, and ended up taking over Frieza's fallen empire. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!